on in 3, 2, 1.
This is Packard Pokset, and I'm poking at your news. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another fine edition of Packard Pokset. I am your immutable and unmutable host, Packard Sonic, and joining me tonight, just for Joe, or just tonight, it's just gonna be Joe, unseen.
No time for love, Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones. Joe, Wayne is going to be off tonight and possibly next week as well. He is on sabbatical. So it's just going to be Joe and I for maybe the next couple shows. But we're going to do our best to give the best show possible for you, our loyal fans. With that, let's get going with our first story. You've heard the story when you were a kid. You know, three blind mice, see how they run. You know, the thing is about mice, these particular mice in this story, they're blind. Now, science has come up with a way to allow mice that are blind to be able to see. It's a new technology out of Cornell. It decodes the signal that comes that makes vision necessary, and recreates the data to basically create a prosthetic retina. And the next up that's going to be up on the list to have this done, monkeys and then possibly humans. Technology is coming a long way. Before too long, anybody who's blind won't need a miracle, because they don't happen anyway, because it's just total nonsense. But technology is creating that. Joe, your thoughts?
You know, first science ruined religion for everybody, and now it's going after our nursery rhymes. Science must be stopped, no matter the cost. But, yeah, no, this is
exciting. Damn science!
Yeah. Darn you, science! Get off my lawn!
Get off my lawn, science!
But yeah, it's exciting. They cracked the code for mice retina communicating with the brain, and they've also cracked the code for monkey retina. So now they hope to use the same microchip technology in monkeys, and that's just a step away from applying this technology to humans. The next step, of course, is monkeys, and then if that works, then there they go. They're a step closer to curing blindness in humans.
Yes, that would be so cool.
And that's awesome. That's mad cool.
Yes, it is. It is mad cool. It's just that we'll be able to see that people who have not had vision will be able to see at some point, and it's just amazing that, you know, people who have never seen before will be able to chance to see, like people who have maybe even possible the people who have like bad cataracts. They can just remove that, and if that works on that as well, who knows? Over in India, for our next story here, they have a problem with pollution. Pollution is a big issue. We need to find a way to get a vehicle that will be able to run without making any air pollution. Electric cars are one answer. Another one is air powered. It's a cute little design. It's a basic concept. It can run on electricity or gasoline, but it would still put out a lot less electricity, a lot less smog than, say, a car that just ran on just gasoline alone. Now, the only problem is if it was just to run on just that, build up the air pressure and the air compressor in the tanks there takes up a lot of time. At this time, viability, maybe not quite right there, but but they're hoping to have these cars going here maybe by by 2015. I read here. I know I saw it here. Yeah, there's the concept car came out in 2010, but yeah, it's a really cool concept. Joe, your thoughts?
This is crazy. I mean, air is free. How are oil companies supposed to make money?
I don't know.
No, I've heard of air cars before. I actually saw on TV they were talking about future cars, and there was a guy over in France who designed some air powered cars, and he actually had a little dealership, and people could go and buy his cars. And in this article, even mentions that air powered vehicles have been used in mining for like 100 years ago. They were using air powered vehicles. So yeah, this is definitely cool. There are limitations, like you mentioned. It takes hours to refuel the compressed air tank. So realistically, these kinds of vehicles would be good for like local commuting. Like you charge it all night long on your air compressor, drive it to work, drive it home. Maybe you could have a compressor at work as well. I'm not sure what the range is on these things, but yeah, it's definitely it's definitely something that's cool, and I hope it works out.
Yes, very much so. I hope so too. It would be really good if we could find some other source, and air would be possible for us to work into.
And this isn't even one of those conspiracy stories like, the big auto industry has a car that runs on air, but they won't give it out to the masses because they're making so much money. No, these are real vehicles that work.
Yes.
They're proven prototypes that they're now putting into production. So
yes. And what's kind of neat is the fact is that this is not a new idea. It's been around for some time. They had like mine carts and things like this, and it was used in the mining industry for decades before electric motors even became commonplace. So it's kind of cool. We have another new nice tech story out here. Earlier this week, Jobs had gotten his house robbed. He had after he died and everything, just not too long ago, his house was robbed and a lot of his equipment had been stolen. Obviously he didn't know because he's gone. Turns out a lot of the equipment turned up into the hands of a guy named of all things, a clown. He came. His name is Kenneth Kahn, 47. He's a professional entertainer, and police said he unwittingly received a 64 gigabit iPad pilfered from the home of the Apple's co-founder last month. I'm sorry, not last week, last month. And his friend, apparently Karen McFarland, 35, was arrested on suspicion of breaking into the home back on August 2nd. Yeah, no, that was early this month. Why? I mean, the house was doing on a reservation. I mean, there's a lot. Apparently what happened, from what I understand here, the person who broke into this home didn't even realize it was Steve Jobs' home.
Right.
And so when he got in there, he's like looking around. It's like, oh my God, this is, the letter to Steve Jobs. Holy crap. So he took several hours and took his shit. Why? If you notice, like, I would just go, oh, I'm sorry, I broke in, I'm not worthy, and then leave. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs' house, I've read this house before. It's been under construction for a really long time, and the man's been dead now for a while, and the house is still under construction. Like, there's still people working on this house. It's never going to be finished. And so this guy hung around and waited for the construction workers to leave. He jumped over a fence and found a hidden key somewhere and got into the house. And like you said, he didn't realize whose house it was until he saw, the article said he saw a piece of mail with a letter on it, like Steve Jobs' name on it. He was like, oh. But he stole like iPods, iPads, Mac computers, and I think it says $60,000 in Tiffany jewelry. Yeah. So he takes all this stuff and he uses one of the iPads to pay off a debt to a friend of his. Yeah. He owed his friend like $300, so he just gives him this iPad. Turns out his friend was is a performing clown. Yeah. Who does street performances to music, juggles torches, makes balloon animals for kids. And this guy took the iPad and he was like, okay. So he didn't know it was stolen. Right. So he's using it in his show to like play music. The cops tracked down the iPad, tracked him down on the sidewalk. He's there with a balloon animal in his hand with an iPad at his feet playing music. And he's like, what do you mean it's stolen? Now, the best part of this story is the clown is a repeat candidate, a repeat failed candidate for mayor of Alameda and San Francisco. This guy has run for mayor multiple times, but has not made it.
No.
Now, I heard that in San Francisco, they have this long, proud history of letting pretty much anyone who wants to run for mayor on the ballot. So, like, you know, back in the day, you would look at the newspaper and see all these people running for mayor, and there would be, like, a guy in a pirate outfit. There would be a guy in a clown costume, you know, maybe this guy.
We actually here in Wisconsin, up north, we had a guy who was an Elvis impersonator ran for mayor over a small town.
He was an Elvis impersonator?
Yes, and I think he won. And I think he won, actually. I don't remember.
Voted for him.
Well, I didn't vote for him. He was not in my district.
Why wouldn't you vote for Elvis, man? He's the king.
Like I said, I couldn't do it. He's not in my district. It was further up north, so I'm pretty far north.
You didn't like his blue suede shoes?
Yeah, I have a problem with his blue suede shoes. You know, they have not prosecuted this poor guy who took, who got this iPad. But the guy who pilfered it originally, they charged him. But they could have easily dropped the hammer on him and said, "You took stolen goods."
Right.
So
well, he didn't know, and he also right away said where he got it from.
Yes.
So I mean, in that situation, the cops will take that into account. All right. I mean, if he was like, "What do you mean this is mine?" And like, "Well, it's stolen. Guess what, buddy? You're under arrest." But you know, he was like, "Oh no, I got this from my friend. He owed me $300." And like, "Well, guess what? It used to be Steve Jobs' iPad."
Yeah, he said he didn't even look into it. He didn't even dig into the iPad. So
right. He downloaded a few songs, and that was it. He started using it in a show.
Yeah, that was it. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't suspect it, you know. But you get nowadays, actually, crime is a big problem any time of the year, or any year for that matter. So, and it could have been anything. So, all right. Well, let's get into our next topic.
Politics.
Over in Ohio, they've had problems with the early voting in the Democratic counties. In the Republican counties, they say the last 3 days of voting, they said you can vote those 3 days. But the Democratic counties, we've run out of money. We can't do it in those days in those counties. So the head person that would decide this was also a Republican. Earlier this week, due to pressure from the news, the media, and everything, so they think this person goes, okay, well, I'm just going to make it even, and I'm going to cut down all early voting for the last 3 days, for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In white neighborhoods who are well affluent, getting to the polls is not a problem. In these other Democratic areas, getting to the polls is usually they go to church, and then they all get in a bus or carpool, whatever, and then they go and vote. So taking away these extra 3 days, it's just another way to suppress the vote one way or the other. Republicans cannot win on merit alone or their policy alone. So what they're doing is they're suppressing the vote left and right, and this is just another way to suppress the vote. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw this on TV earlier in the week, and I mean, the only reason anybody would suppress voting is because they're afraid of the outcome.
Yes.
And you know, this was clear cut. I mean, you know, I'm going to channel Eric. Oh, both parties do it. Well, this is clear cut. They deliberately targeted Democratic counties to have less hours available for voting, and Republican counties for longer hours and extended days. And they used the 2008 county statistics to figure out which county should have what. So right there, boom, that's a smoking gun. They were trying to sway the election. And you know, to say both parties do it, like, nothing like this has ever happened before.
No.
I mean, this year, voter suppression has hit a new benchmark for modern voting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of it going like this. Like, you know, back when I was a kid, you'd hear things like, you know, they would register dead people to vote, and then have dummies go in and vote for the people who died that year, and you know, they'd find out who died in the obituaries. But you know, even doing that, it only swayed the vote by a few thousand. Yeah. Here we're talking about entire counties.
Yeah,
you know?
Millions.
And
and it just blows my mind that the Republicans are getting away with this stuff. I mean, this is not done yet. This story is not even done, because what they're gonna do. This is going to the Supreme Court in Ohio, which may not even be resolved until the election. So it's a lot of people to vote early and all. And you're right. They knew that this was coming because they looked at the past votes back in 2008, and they said, no, we can't let this happen again. And the Republicans don't know anything but suppress. They say no, the party of no, and voter suppression. And the only people they want are the ones that, I've said this before, they want white, rich males, period. They don't want women, they don't want Latinos. And even though Mitt Romney is appealing to the Latinos right now, but the moment they vote for him, he's going to kick them out of the country as fast as he can. Because, oh, thanks for the vote, get the hell out. You know, Republicans, I am just tired of Republicans right now. It is not even funny.
Well, not to, I mean, not all the Republicans, but there does seem to be a trend among many states for state level voter suppression, and it's really kind of scary. I mean, this is our democracy we're talking about. Everybody should have the right to vote.
Yes.
Everybody does have the right to vote. They're just trying to withhold that.
Yes. Well, let me clarify then. Not all Republicans, just the main people who are in charge of trying to suppress this vote right now. It is just so sad.
Somewhere in Louisiana, there's a former co-host of the show beating his chest saying, not me, everyone should vote.
I wonder who that is.
And he doesn't have very many thoughts.
No. I hear he has no thoughts. Speaking of voter suppression, down in to our next story here, down in New Mexico, the voters down there are being kicked off the rolls, and include voting activist, which was ironic, of the wife of the state representative. She got kicked off, saying that you haven't been voting enough. You're not eligible to vote anymore. And it's like, I've been an active voter since '71. Not me personally. I'm not that old, but but to go through these the voter rolls and start purging people, say you can't vote because you haven't been active. You got to, if you want to vote, if you want to vote this year, you have to come in and re-sign up. You know, just to say, and a lot of people are confused about this. One of the things that they're saying that they're inactive, not just removed, but they're inactive. What's interesting here is that the people who are still able to vote without verifying their information until 2014, and many of these people who are able to vote from 2014 up until that may have gotten this letter, and they're sitting there, what do you mean I can't vote? I don't understand. They're confused, and they'll think, well, I'm not allowed to vote this year. And this is New Mexico, another Republican state trying to use the Republican GOP, not Republican, GOP, we'll just say GOP, the grand old plutocrats, as Dan would say.
The party of Lincoln.
Yeah, the party of Lincoln, the party of no, using this as just another form of suppressing the votes. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this story reminds me a lot of the no-fly list after 9/11 when they put Ted Kennedy on the list. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
he showed up at the airport, like, sorry, you're on the no-fly terrorist list.
Yeah,
and Ted Kennedy's like, but I'm Senator Ted Kennedy. I mean, in New Mexico, they made up a list of people who are inactive voters, and they said you're going to have to re-verify your address or who you are somehow when you come to vote, but they weren't very clear about what you had to do when you showed up to vote. And surprisingly, the wife of a state representative and a voting rights activist both wound up on this list. And the voting rights activist, like you said, she's been voting since 1971. And she's like, I can't believe this. I vote every year. I go around helping other people make sure they have the right to vote, and they put me on this list. I mean, how hard is it, when they're drawing up a list like this, to be like, all right, here's another list of the people we don't like. Yeah. Why don't you make sure they all wind up on this list too? Because it's just a click on a computer screen.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
The statistics on this were 170,000 people were kicked off the voting roll in New Mexico. That's enough people to fill a small city.
Oh,
it's 14% of all New Mexican registered voters.
Yes,
that's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, that's more than just a few thousand that might sway an election. That's an entire city of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, the sad thing is, a lot of these people may be Republicans and wanting to vote for a Republican.
Exactly. Exactly.
But we've covered this a story like this before. What they were doing was they were just but they these people who were kicked off were mostly Democrats or independents or whatever. If they weren't Republican, they were left on in many cases. Some cases they were taken off. They said it was just an accident. Sure. I
wonder what the criteria was. I mean, if they missed like a school board election, were they taken off the list?
Oh, I have no idea. That'd be interesting to find out what prompted them to say, "Hey, you can't vote." It just flabbergasts me that they're trying to get away from this, and they're again succeeding, and it's gonna blow this whole election into a whole something else completely different. Let's get into our next story here. Speaking of the people who are trying to be elected, Romney and Obama. Now, Mitt Romney has been saying, "Hey, if you want to judge me by my business record. I was a governor too, but don't talk about that." But he's saying, don't discuss my tax returns. I gave you a year. That's good enough. You only need a year. Really? Everybody else that has ran for president has given out at least between 5 and 10 years of their tax returns. Romney is claiming that he is paid more than 15% or 13% in taxes. Oh, just take my word for it. Just believe me. So when when he was governor or running for governor of Massachusetts, he said, "Oh, I paid all the taxes for Massachusetts." And the reporters and the GOP people who were the GOP reporters who were sympathetic to this said, "Oh, okay, we'll believe you. And they found out his tax returns were in Utah. So, hey, he lied to you and you bought it. He's lying to you again. This is why he will not release his tax records. He is a liar and he is corrupt in more ways than I can even count. He will not release his tax records because he's hiding something. He has money in the Cayman Islands and over in Switzerland. Switzerland don't care who gives them money and where they hide it, the only reason you put money in Switzerland is because you've got money that's coming from something that you don't want anybody else to know about where you're getting it from. It could be a drug deal, who knows, and generally that's what it's mainly used for. That's not all of them, obviously, because there are some legitimate businesses that use it. I wouldn't put it past Romney that this business or that his money is all on the up and up, and he knows that if he releases these tax records, it could disqualify him. It won't. I'm not going to say will, but could disqualify him for even running for president. Then we will have to start. I don't know what we would do then, since he's already been put as the GOP nominee. Maybe we'll have to go who is in second. I guess I don't know. This has never happened before. I mean, we've never had anybody who refuses to pay us show their tax reforms, and then say, "Hey, we're going to let's talk about this. Don't talk about me. Talk about something else." Joe, your thoughts?
I'm not going to speak for Romney because I don't know what is on his tax returns. Only he does. But I had all my drug money in Switzerland.
Oh, is that where you keep your drug money?
Yes.
Yes. No, I can't find it.
I figured, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I want to be open and honest.
Okay.
That there is quite a bit of money. It's all drug related. It's dirty money.
Dirty money.
And it's in Switzerland.
Yeah.
But when I saw this story, at first I was a little skeptical. I was like, all right, the story's coming from thinkprogress.org. How slanted is this towards the left? And I started reading the story, and it was straightforward. It was like, all right, here's the quote. He appeared in an interview on NBC's Chuck Todd. Mm-hmm. The former governor said, "Our campaign would be helped immensely if we had an agreement between both campaigns that we were only going to talk about the issues and that attacks based on business or family or taxes or things of that nature would not be talked about." He went on to say, we only talk about the issues, and we can talk about the differences between our positions and opponents' positions. Romney said on his own campaign, our ads haven't gone after the president personally. We haven't dredged up old stuff that people talked about last time around. We haven't gone after the personal things. Now, I know there's no law that says you have to release your tax returns, but you know, when you're going for president, it's been the tradition for the last, I forget how many campaign cycles, something like for the last like 30 years at least.
At least.
That you release your tax returns. Romney's dad ran for president, and he was the first guy that said everything should be transparent. I'm going to release my tax records, and he started the tradition.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah, I think he put out 12. Huh? I think he put out at least 12 years of tax records when he ran.
Right. Yeah. And so here we are, 2012. Romney put out, I think, 2 years worth.
Yeah.
And everything else is off limits. And don't even ask him about it. And if you ask him about it, then you're attacking me personally. It's like, no, dude, you want the highest office in the land.
Yeah.
No, you have to play by the, you know, it's not a rule, but you still have to, you know, be a little bit more transparent. I think it's hurting him with the trust.
Yes.
I think the people look at it as, I mean, what is he hiding?
Yes.
I mean, if you had nothing to hide, then just come out with it. I hate to sound like that because it's like, well, if you're afraid of surveillance cameras, then you have something to hide. No, it's a different issue. This guy is running for public office, and we need to know like what he's been into.
Yeah.
So for him to say, pay no attention to my business dealings after I told you I'm a really good businessman, and pay no attention to my taxes after I'm going to be the person proposing financial policy that affects your taxes. You know, it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to know what's over there.
Yeah, no, but he's only actually put out 1 year. He hasn't put out 2, he's put out 1. So he put out his 2010 tax return. He hasn't even, it's 2010. He hasn't put out his 2011 one yet. And I don't know if he's going to. I mean, he claims he's paid taxes, but we don't know. There's a great ad. It says, he goes, how much has he paid in taxes? 13%, 10%, 5%, 0? We don't know. And what's really interesting is this is a big ad by the president and his staff and his campaign, and the GOP is suspiciously quiet on this ad. There is an ad supposedly running on the web. I haven't seen it. I heard about it, and it's talking about something Romney did, and they're attacking the web ad. They're not even attacking. They're not attacking this other one, which is quite damaging to Mitt Romney, but they're not talking about that one.
It's a personal attack.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy is going to affect how you are taxed, but he doesn't want to show you how he taxed.
Exactly. I would really like to know what he's hiding over there. I asked Anonymous to go over to Switzerland to attack the Switzerland bank and find out what Romney's hiding, where he's getting that money. They'll never hear.
Tell him to leave my drug money alone, all right?
Yeah, leave Todd's drug money alone, though. All right, well, let's get into our next topic.
Give me the news.
One of my things I do is for my real life, other than here, is I drive for my job, and when you're out driving, you see a lot of strange things. You know, see dead animals here. You have stuff running out in front of you. You have cats, dogs, sometimes deer. There's a driver.
What do you see when you go cruising for hookers?
Hookers.
No, I'm sorry. It's your turn to talk.
What I see when I go looking for hookers? Hookers. And they usually have hooks. No. That's why I call them hookers.
They have hooks for hands.
Hooks for hands. Don't ask for my hand job. No. There's a man over in Oslo, Norway. It doesn't give the person's name. He's driving down the road, and there's a moose in the road because it's Norway. He swerves to miss it. The car slows down a little bit, and then just as he swerves, there's a bear. Boom! Hits the bear. He avoids one animal just to hit the other.
What are the chances of that?
What that is? Yeah, if he had swerved the other direction, he might have missed them both. But it's it's just so funny. He was about 140 miles north of Oslo Wednesday night when he hit this animal. The bear was not killed, but they think the bear has internal injuries and is just bleeding, so they're following the blood to this bear so they can.
Yeah, they tried to track it down, but
yeah, they haven't found it yet. Trying to find a bear in the woods. So it's. I feel real bad for everybody involved in this. The bear too. But I'll tell you something. There's a saying here in Wisconsin, when you're a driver and whatnot, if you're going to end up hitting a deer, and this is as cruel as this sounds, just hit the thing, because you're going to do more damage trying to avoid the animal by going in the ditch or whatever than hitting the deer. I know that sounds incredibly cruel.
That's hitting deer. If you hit a moose with your car, you can kill yourself.
Oh yeah, moose is a whole. Yeah.
Moose are tall and heavy, and they'll come right through your windshield.
Oh, deer too. Deer will too. Deer and turkeys, and another driver I had heard about this. A turkey flew up and went right through the window of a driver's truck. So these windows are not made of impervious stuff, so anything can go right through these windows. But with deer, just hit it and keep going, or hit it. But I always try to stop. I make sure that something's not behind me, if at all possible. But sometimes these things just happen, unfortunately. Joe, your thoughts? I
go hiking and camping in New Hampshire, way up in New Hampshire, like almost in Canada, right on the American-Canadian border. And up there's signs on all the roads that say, "Brake for moose, it'll save your life." And when I first saw them, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, what does that mean? And the locals told us, oh, no, take those signs very seriously. If you see a moose in the road, jam on the brakes. Do not hit that thing, because they're top-heavy, and they will crush the top of your car. People get killed all the time hitting moose.
Wow.
So, I actually read a pamphlet they had at the highway rest stop, the little pamphlets called Brake for Moose. And I read it, and it said that if you're driving down the road and you see a moose in the road, come to a complete stop, pull off on the side of the road, and just wait for the moose to get off the road.
Really?
Don't challenge it. Don't try to drive around it. Don't do anything. That's moose, I mean, I understand driver safety. There's if you're about to hit an animal that's smaller than a moose, like you said, it's better to just hit the animal, avoid it if you can, but if you hit the animal, it's better than hitting a tree or a telephone pole or a rock, because then you're just going to kill yourself.
Right.
Going up to New Hampshire all these times, I've always wanted to see a moose. I'm like, moose, 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 where's the moose? I never saw a moose. And I'm like hanging out the car window, like, where's the moose? And I work with a woman, and she goes up there too, and she's complained to me she's never seen a moose. And I'm just like, I know, I never see a moose. So about a year ago, I was up there with my brother. We're driving around at night, and I look out the side window, and in the shadows of the darkness and the moonlight, I saw a moose galloping alongside the car. And it was so big and so scary, and I freaked out, and I was like, oh my God, it's a moose!
You go looking for it, it starts charging alongside the car, and
it was right alongside the car, and then it went off into the woods. And it was late at night, so the next morning I called up my coworker. I was like, guess what I just saw? And she's like, get out of here. Because she goes up every summer. She's like, don't even tell me you saw a moose. I'm like, yeah, I just saw one last night.
I like Wizard of Todd said in the chat room, remember, where there's a moose, there's a squirrel. But like in the area I live here, I've always talked to drivers. They say, "Oh, I saw a bear out in an area." It's like, I've driven through there before. I've never seen bear. I mean, yeah, they're around, but just seeing them is it's just random. It's like catching a UFO, I guess. Although we know bears are real.
Right by my job, another animal story. I was driving with another woman I work with, and we're driving to my job. We're like maybe a block or a few blocks away, and she goes, "Oh, look at the size of that dog." And I didn't look, and she goes, "That's not a dog, that's a bear." And I jammed on the brakes. And I'm like, "Bear!" And we turned around and went back, and sure enough, there was a bear in somebody's front yard.
Oh wow!
A brown bear. I was like, "Oh," because I'd never seen one before. I was like, "Oh, look at it, it's a bear."
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's not. If you see a bear, don't stop for it.
Well, I didn't get out of the vehicle. I just turned around so I could see it. I was like, "Yep, sure enough."
Yeah, there's bears are very wild. So gotta
You don't want to play with them.
No.
They don't play nice.
No, they do not play nice.
They'll take your arm off.
Yes, they will, and then they'll play with it.
They'll hit you with it.
Yeah, it's bam, bam. Yeah.
This is my cousin in Norway.
Let's get to our next story here. A man apparently was doing something illegal. He is doing a drug deal, and he's talking to his buddy or the guy he's doing his drug deal to, and these new phones.
He was one of my customers.
That's how it got broke. That's how it got busted.
He butt dials me all the time. I'm like, dude, really?
I've had this happen. The guy, yeah, that's exactly what happened. He butt dialed the police, and the police were like listening in, and said, it's like, what the hell is this? And it's like they're listening in. It's like, yeah, how much you want for the cocaine, or I don't know what they said. There's no transcript available, but but we can imagine. It's like they're like, because I'm sure the police get these kind of calls all the time, and they don't realize it, and but this one turned out to be gold for the police because there's a drug transaction going on. A lot of things in this country are failed. War on drugs is a big one right there. We need to make some modifications. I'm not a drug user myself. I mean, aspirin is
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, not ever. I'm too weird for drugs. But I've had people butt dial me lots of times too. I was like, hello, and you're screaming into the phone, hello, and then it's like, okay, fine. You just hang up after a while.
You hear them ordering McDonald's or something, and it's like, come on.
Oh, come on, really? Yeah. So yeah, this is really kind of bizarre. I mean,
this guy wasn't ordering McDonald's.
Yeah, no, he wanted it his way, but that's not what he wanted. But that's not quite what he gets. Joe, your thoughts?
I had the original iPhone, and it was passcode locked, and I don't know what was wrong with it, but it butt dialed everyone.
Really?
And I would leave everyone I knew 3 to 5 minute voicemails, and it was just ridiculous. If I wanted to make a phone call, I had to enter 4 digits, hit OK, and then actually go and find the contact and call. But for some reason, if it was in my pocket, it did all that by itself. I would just call people. And I'd get back from a vacation and be like, oh yeah, I went to this restaurant. They're like, yeah, we know. I'm like, how do you know? They're like, you left us a 5 minute voicemail about it on the voicemail. We heard what you ordered. But yeah, this guy, I mean,
that's too funny.
Yeah. It was a problem. I was like, are all cell phones like this? I don't know. But yeah, I have a newer iPhone now, and it doesn't do that.
Oh, that's good.
But
I have the original iPhone too. I still got it. I still got it here somewhere.
Yeah, me too. Mine's on a shelf. It's my antique.
Mine's sitting right here on my desk, actually. It's right here. See? Look at that. It's not even powered up. It's even dusty. Dust.
Yeah. So this guy's out. He's buying drugs. He successfully buys drugs, but little known to him, he butt dials 911, and the cops are sitting there snickering and listening into him buy his drugs. So they go to his house, and they're like, hey, guess what? You called us. And the article says he was a little incoherent. He was having trouble talking. I guess he did the drugs. They found more drugs in his house, drug paraphernalia, and they arrested him. Now, the funniest thing in this article is this line here. It said, cell phones sometimes turn themselves on at the worst possible times, such as weddings, funerals, and drug deals.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's like... I like the first line. It says, sometimes life does not want to bring you luck. Especially if you have a cell phone. The best... It's inconvenient, and you can't do it with an iPhone. If you don't want to butt dial people, take the battery out of the phone, if at all possible. Set it, keep it near it, but don't put it in there. That's inconvenient because you have to wait. But hey, it's better than especially if you're going to do a drug deal. Right. but that could be a problem, you know, especially if you're, like you're cheating on your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend, and it's like, oh yeah, I can hear it. It's like, what if you're just watching a dirty movie and they don't realize it? That was a movie. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure it was. Sure it was, buddy. Sure it was. Or her. Women like porn too. Speaking of porn and naked people, there's a guy. He's a priest of all things, out in Dearborn, Michigan, and he told the cops that he just likes driving in the nude. must be one of those holy nudes drives he's out there doing. They approached this car. It turns out he was .09, which is 1 point over the legal limit for being intoxicated. He said, I was hot, so I need to take off all my clothes. I don't begrudge the guy if you want to take off his clothes. I mean, fine, you're hot. But if you're naked and driving, the worst part of the story is not that he's naked, not that I want to see that, but he's driving drunk. He could have killed somebody. There were some photos down below, and of these people who have also been accused and convicted of doing things naked. It's photo number 7. Now this is the caption on it. It's a little off the topic here, but it's kind of part of it. It says his name. This guy, that's his name, Jacob Lee Bolvia. He's facing indecent exposure for exposing fake genitalia to a group of women at Maryland's college. I've been to bars. If you've ever been to a bar in Wisconsin, women come in on their bachelorette parties all the time, and they've got penises hanging off of them, and they got fake penises or a gigantic dildo carrying around with them. And it's a fake genitalia. Do these people get arrested? No, because they're carrying it around. What if a guy went out with fake vaginas? You think he'd get arrested? Oh hell yeah! In a heartbeat, he'd get arrested. Doesn't matter if you're at a bachelor party, he'd get arrested, guaranteed. Todd, your thought? Todd, sorry, Joe, your thoughts?
Well, girls' bachelor parties, they have the plastic penises and everything, and they do that in public. But guys' bachelor parties, those take place behind closed doors because
you have to.
We're just pigs.
Here we are. Men are pigs. Men are pigs.
But you did an impression of what he said, and I actually wrote down the quote too, so I want to do my impression of what he said. He got pulled over. The cop comes up, and he's like, I was hot. I like to drive around naked.
Yeah.
He said that to the cop.
This guy,
he was a priest. He has since been suspended, and he did perform, morning mass the day after he was arrested. So, I guess they didn't find out until later, and he was able to do mass the next morning, all hungover and fully clothed now.
Yes.
I think we should form a group, Mothers Against Naked Priests Drunk Driving.
You know what the irritating part of this story is that since he said he was able to do his shtick. I call it a shtick because that's all it is. It's just garbage. They allowed him to do that the next day. They didn't arrest him. They didn't haul him off to jail. If it had been you, I, or anybody in the chat room, they would have been, hey, drunk driving, naked.
Well, no, I think he was arrested. It's just by the morning he was let out.
Oh.
And he went and did mass, and then the church found out that what happened, and they suspended him. I think that's my understanding of the chain of events. But the big thing that I think is, if he had been touching little boys, they would have just moved him to a different church.
Oh, yeah.
But because he got caught driving around naked and drunk, then he's suspended. Oh, how could you do that?
How could you do that?
What were you thinking?
Yeah. What were you thinking? The body is so dirty. Penises and vaginas and breasts and oh.
You have to set an example for the community.
Exactly. It just if you want to drive.
Said if the priest had 6-packs, she wouldn't mind.
Yeah, this guy. No, he doesn't have a 6-pack. I can look at the picture. He's fully dressed in this picture, but he does not have a 6-pack. I mean, he has a keg. I have one too, but I'm trying to get rid of mine.
What if he airbrushes the six-pack on, kind of like, the movie 300, and then he could just
there
be
you
like,
go.
hey, Mean Fluff, what's up? Ever been with a priest?
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
She's going to have to use more of her brain bleach.
Yes, brainwashing time. All right, well, let's get into our next topic. Yeah. Now, it's so funny. We were just talking about the priest and everything, but it being nude and naked bodies and everything. Over the Jewish people, the Orthodox Jews, men mainly, they have a new weapon against the sexual temptation of women. Tempting them. Because women are just so scary. Your breasts and your sexy bodies and legs and arms and eyeballs and fingers and toes and mouths and hair. So what they're doing is they get these glasses. They're called modesty glasses. They put them on and they can only see a few feet in front of them. Literally, a few feet in front of them. The problem here with this is if they're walking down the street, there's a car coming 50 feet down the street, and he walks in the street because he doesn't see it. He's street pizza. Why? If you don't think you can keep it in your pants, then don't go out. Stay home. You don't need glasses. I mean, there is nothing wrong with looking at another human being. And what's kind of weird is these religious sects that are doing this. They said that they cannot. It prevents inadvertently watching women or women that are not married. If you're a not married man, you're not supposed to look at unmarried women. Well, how do you get married if you don't know what you're looking at? That's what I'd like to know. Really? Come on now. I mean, all those people out there that are Jewish, and there's a lot of them, if they're not looking, you're going to be sitting a lot of times home alone over the sink eating your dinner. If you want to look at the wall, look at the wall, but don't put on these glasses. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry if it offends you. I'm sorry, tough, because it's just plain stupidity. Number 2 on this list of stupidity things, besides the fact that it's you could get killed. It'll ruin you don't get killed. It'll ruin your eyesight. Then you will need thick glasses, and you'll be able to be hold glasses out to here. Please, just don't. If you can't handle it, stay home. Don't blame women because you think you have to have modesty glasses. It's just ridiculous. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, this story deals with Orthodox Jewish men living in Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and some Orthodox Jewish men have real problems with women, seeing women, being around women in these neighborhoods. They've actually segregated parts of their society, like they've segregated the bus. The men sit here, the women sit over here. Yeah. They really can't. There's really strict dress codes on the women. The women can't show too much skin. They have to have their clothing has to come up to their neck. It has to go down their wrist. There's signs up talking about women dress codes, and actual groups of men have approached women that they felt were dressed inappropriately and said, "Hey, listen, you need to cover up more." Oh, so women can't even walk around in public in these neighborhoods without getting, told that they're showing off too much, whatever that means,
Yeah. I've heard stories about these Jewish people. They get on the bus and they confront women because they're sitting in the front of the bus, and they say, "Hey, you're supposed to sit in the back because the men sit up here, so we can't look at you. I can only see the guy in front of me." And it's there's this lady who's on this one podcast. She said she'd like to go down there sometime. Just kind of dress kind of scantily and just get on the bus and just torture these poor guys. I'm for that.
Because they're all wearing blurry glasses.
Yeah, well, now they won't be able to see it. Yeah, see, we wear that. But I mean, this is in New York. They're doing this. So
this is in New York? I thought it was in Jerusalem.
No. This is story in Jerusalem. The story about the bus.
Okay.
That's in New York. There's
some really large Jewish and Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I can't believe that this it's 2012. Grow up, right?
I know, right? It's no longer the Bronze Age.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
The tail end of this article says their interpretation of Jewish law forbids contact between men and women who are not married.
Yeah, that's the
walls in
line I
their
was trying to get to.
neighborhoods feature signs exhorting women to wear closed-neck, long-sleeve blouses, long skirts. Extremists have reported confronting women who they consider flouting the dress code.
Yeah.
That's just
Ridiculous.
crazy. You know what's really, really funny about this article?
What's that?
Is in the margins next to it, there's other stories.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the stories are there's Kim Kardashian wearing almost nothing
Mm-hmm.
with a picture of it. And then there's the story about Ashley Dupree, Elliot Spitzer's sex worker, and she's also in a bikini. So these stories are right next to this one.
Not to mention Lindsay Lohan, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, like these stories are right next to this. So if an Orthodox Jewish man is like, well, let's see what the media is saying about our glasses, click on this page. It's like, oh my goodness, where's my glasses?
That is completely ironic, too.
I mean, it's an article about not looking at women with a whole lot of boobs.
Yeah, well, a lot of women's breasts are pretty big, so the first thing they're going to see is their boobs when they come at you. They won't see the face, they're going to see the boobs first. Just kidding, ladies.
What? I want to click on this one. One of the stories is, did the Little Mermaid get a boob job?
Oh, jeez.
What? What? It's a Disney cartoon.
I didn't see that one. I did not see that one there.
It's towards the bottom. Oh, no.
Wow, there's a lot here. I'll look at it later. But we should get going to our next story here.
Absolutely.
There's a guy out in Texas, I believe this is, and he was at the Two Rivers grocery store and market, and it's called in the city of Big Sandy. He claims that the sacker there, the guy that puts your groceries in your bag so you can carry it out and go home, says he violated his religious freedom. How is putting groceries in a sack really violating religious freedom? Turns out this guy is saying because it's the sacker in this case, kind of an odd term, but the
I got hung up on that too. I was like, he's a sacker.
Yeah, he's a sacker. Careful, he might sack you. No, he's the grocery bag handler, I guess. I don't know. There's a
He
term.
bags the groceries.
He bags the groceries.
cashier rings them up, and he puts the groceries in the bag.
Exactly. And this guy, he goes into the market, and he's been kicked out of this market several times for this crap.
Right.
He says that because the guy who's sacking the groceries is black, and he's using religion to say black people can't touch my stuff. I don't want black people around me. I don't want black people touching my stuff. You know the funniest thing about this, if you really think about it, all this stuff that he's picking up at the grocery store is mass produced, and somewhere down the chain, black people may have touched it.
I didn't even think of that. You're absolutely right.
And
How many hands touch the produce before it gets to the supermarket?
Exactly. How does he think it got there? I mean, by magic? Did God just come down to the grocery store and pop it onto the shelves? No. People handle this stuff. White people, black people, Asian people, Mexicans, Latinos, everybody. If you're human and you work in this line of industry, you've touched it. It's that simple. So he has not a leg to stand on, and he's trying to take this to court on top of this. And he's using the term from the quote from the Bible, and he says, according to using the concordance with the Hebrew and Greek dictionary, he quoted from the verse from Jeremiah 13:23 that says, "Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard its spots? Neither can you do good who are accustomed to doing evil." And somehow he's quoting this to saying that he says basically the religion prevents him from striking hands with an untouchable, which is considered African Americans, And he also states that he gets his religion for African American person, not the term he uses to touch his food. Dude, you're losing battle here. They've already touched your food before the grocer got the sacker. There's got to be a better term for this. Had touched this. Really? Come on now. It's just ridiculous. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, in New York we call them baggers.
The baggers.
Yep.
Yeah, my daughter told me that.
This story is so unbelievably over the top. Like it's like reading, like, because he submitted a 9-page lawsuit to the court, and it was all handwritten, and the article quotes from it extensively. And when I'm reading these quotes, it's like, whoa, what? Like, yo, we got to grab your time machine and go back to March 5th and watch this guy in action, because this is like, it's so outrageous, it's almost comedic. I mean, it's horrible that this guy is this racist, but the things that he says went down. It's like, what? Like, here in his lawsuit, he said, "Wait a minute, don't touch my groceries. I can't have some negroidal touch my food. It's against my creed." What?
Yeah.
What's a negroidal?
Yeah, that's all I like to know.
That's outrageous. It's so
he
outrageous.
I'm going to say he didn't want to say the full N word. I'm not going to say it because I think I don't like the word. I'm not going to say it.
Oh, no. Like, yeah, it's a terrible word. It's completely horrible. But, like, and he goes on and he says other stuff. And, like, it happened on 2 occasions. It happened on the 5th and on the 7th, March 5th and March 7th. On the 5th, the on-shift manager came out and tried to calm him down. And she was like, listen, God loves everybody. And so in his lawsuit, he mentions that she was trying to convert him to her creed of religion.
Oh, jeez.
And that oppresses his religion.
Oh, jeez.
And she was just trying to calm him down, like, sir, And on the 7th, when he went back again and had the same issue again, the owner of the store was there. And the owner was like, hey, man, listen, I know you've been coming here for years, but listen, we can't have this kind of racism in the store. And he had a fit. He made a big scene.
Yep.
There was like some issue with the doors being locked, and he claimed that they locked him in the store and tried to like abduct him or something.
Yep.
And it's just outrageous. This guy's a complete nut job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he even here's another quote he used. He said, revert to Leviticus 22:25 in the King James version of the Bible. He says, "And you must not accept such animals from the hand of a foreigner, and offer them as the food of your God. They will not be accepted on your behalf because they are deformed and have defects." He's basically saying that black people are defective. And they're foreigners because they're black.
He must not eat out much.
I guess not.
Or travel much.
I hope not. I hope he does not travel.
What a limited view of the world.
I know. It's just, people like this are ridiculous. I mean, to use religion as a guise for racism, one, I think is cowardly. If he's a racist, come out and just say you're a frippin' racist, okay? If you're afraid of that, then you should not be a racist, period. But if you're going to hide behind religion, the skirt of religion, then you're a bigger dumbass than before. Seriously. And I take no bone. I do not like people who are racist. They bothered me to hell. And it's just, if you're racist, you won't be around me, period.
Racist people are dicks.
Yes, they are. I'm sad to say this, but my dad was like that. And it's just, I was younger. I had a friend. He's a black kid. And I was a kid. I would like playing with him. And my dad said, don't play with him because he's black. I said, no, I'll play with whoever I want. He, on the other hand, his dad was the same way as my dad was. And he obeyed his dad because he didn't want him playing with me because I was white, which is really sad. And he didn't want to disobey his father. And I was willing to stay away, to show that I was more of a better person than that. And I really feel sorry for him. I wish I could remember his name, but it was so long ago, and I was very young at the time. All right, well, let's get into our next story then. Something positive for the atheist community, that the polls are showing that atheism is on the rise here in the United States, and I think it's about damn time. The religiosity poll is religiosity, I should say, is on the decline in the U.S., and atheism is on the rise according to this new worldwide poll. The Global Index of Religiosity and Atheism found that the number of Americans who say they are religious had dropped from 73 in 2005, the last poll, to 60%. That's an excellent start. Not quite half, but it's getting there. The GOP are fighting this too, because they keep throwing religion in everywhere they go. I'm such a godly guy, and I hate abortion, and God is on our side, and yeah, right, whatever. But before too long, I think even the GOP are going to have to start conceding and say, hey, I'm not that religious, or eventually I'm not religious at all, and then we'll all have a level playing field, at least in that regard. But until that time comes, which if it came tomorrow, I'd be so happy. But I know that's not going to happen. But it would be really kind of cool. Joe, your thoughts?
Wait a minute, you're an atheist? I can't be on this podcast anymore.
Bye, Joe. Just kidding.
Yeah, this story, I saw it tweeted earlier this week by the Godless Atheist, Mike, and it was real exciting. I read it, and I was like, wow, this is so cool, and I tweeted it to a whole bunch of people, and I got a few conversations going about it, and it is exciting. This story comes from the Washington Post, and the poll was called the Global Index on Religiosity and Atheism.
Yes.
And it's pretty vast. They surveyed people all around the world in the tens of thousands, and what they found was that atheism in the United States went from 1% 7 years ago to 5%, but religiosity, people who describe themselves as religious, dropped from 73% in 2005 to 60% now.
Yep.
And that's a huge advance for the movement. Now, some people might say, well, 60%, 5%, what about the people in between? Well, those are the nons. Right. Those are the people who say they're agnostic or non-religious. There's a lot of different labels.
Yes.
And so for the nons to go from what was like 17% up to 40%, that's enormous. That's a huge gain.
Yes. And a lot of other countries like Vietnam, Ireland, China, Czech Republic, France are also following in these same patterns here. China has...
Yeah, it's a worldwide trend.
Yes. I think in my humble opinion, I think the reason that people are turning more atheist is because we're becoming better connected, and we're being able to talk to each other and say, hey, you've heard about this. Yeah, well, this is what this is, and why this doesn't make sense. And people are actually starting to listen and using their brains, because religion wants to keep you down, and technology moves us forward.
You're absolutely right. It's the interconnectivity that we've now achieving. More and more people in the world have access to the internet. If you're on Twitter, and you're a pretty active Twitter, you can have conversations with people all over the world in real time every day.
Absolutely.
And we do. We do.
Yes, we do.
I mean, everybody who is in on Twitter, like every day, we're talking to people all over the planet. And ideas spread. They spread like viruses. They spread like... They're very contagious. Like, oh, really? You think that? And then like, well, let me think about it myself. And you change your mind that way. Yes. And it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what religion hates, is people talking to each other. I mean, they don't mind you talking to each other so long as you're pushing their God down your throat.
Right.
Or up your ass, however they want to push it. But as long as... But when but if they don't... You're talking and thinking... Can't have that. So, but I'm so glad that we are able to start to discover this stuff. I kind of wish that this stuff had been around. I was born now instead of 20 or 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when there was like none of this, because then things would have been so much different in my life. Then I would have been able to come out more. I would have had more support. But being an atheist, I'm not going to kid anybody on this. Coming out on it, it's not going to be easy. It's like coming out gay, because gay people are hard to, not hard to deal with. It's just the society pressures of being gay were very difficult, because it's like, oh, you're gay, and there's all this nasty stereotype that goes along with it. Same thing for being an atheist. If you can come out, come out. But if you can't, then don't. Because if you could lose your job or over it, or you could lose family over it that you need support from, then by all means don't come out. And
it's a case by case basis.
Yes, exactly.
If you can survive independently, then by all means come out.
Exactly.
But if you're reliant on a religious person for your upkeep and your well-being, then you might as well keep your mouth shut until you can get out on your own and then open your mouth.
Right. And for many years, the company I'm at, I've been with this company for about 8 years now, and only recently did I come out on this, and in a big way, and it made a lot of people uncomfortable, but that's not my problem. That's not my problem. That's their problem. They need to deal with that, because I've come to terms with it. And they try to beat me down, but I don't beat down easily. But anyway. All right. Well, we have... no, that's it for our stories. So let's get into our funny tweet tonight. Our funny tweet tonight comes from Atheist Christ, who retweets the tweet of God. He says, "Damn you, autocorrect! I just mistakenly sent 10,000 people to heal." I hate sending people to heal. They just don't burn as easily.
They just get stepped on.
They just get stepped on. Yeah. They get a little singed. You know, it's not quite hell. You know, it's like hell light.
Heal has a better compression rate than hell.
Yes. Joe, your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Okay. Okay. I'll let you steal that one. All right, let's get into our shout-out for this evening.
Hey, you guys!
And our shout-out for this evening comes from me, and that would be for the Mars Curiosity rover. It's at the @ MarsCuriousity. Mars Curiosity rover is never going to hear this podcast because it's doing things that none of us are going to do. It's on Mars, for crying many sakes. So, but it doesn't tweet all the time. It just tweets randomly. But it tells you what it's doing, which I think is amazing. Because back in the day, when the Apollo astronauts were up on the moon or whatever, you had to wait for it to get on the news because they had to talk to NASA, and then NASA would go filter out what it was doing, and then they would get to the news, and then you'd then hear about it, or you'd hear about it months later. You wouldn't have a play-by-play. This is a play-by-play. What this robot is doing, which is really cool, because it says, "Hey, I found a rock that looks like Elvis's head," or whatever. I don't know if it'll come up with that, but that'd be kind of funny too. But if you're out on Twitter, and if you're not on Twitter, why don't you give Mars Curiosity a follow, especially if you like science, because it's been putting out some pretty interesting tweets. And to have something tweet to us from Mars. From Mars! Come on! That's cool! How can that not be cool? It's the farthest tweet from anywhere in our solar system. From Mars. Cool. All right, let's get into our question of the week.
Excuse me. I have a question. I have a question, sir.
What are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
Question from last week. It says, if you were the first person to set foot on another planet, what would be the first thing you'd say? And we had a reply from Todd, actually. He said that, actually we had two from, one from Todd, one from Celeb. Todd said that if I were the first person to land on a planet, I would say, all your base belong to us. It's in hashtag oldie but goodie. And Celeb said, upon first stepping on the planet, he'd say, where's the bathroom? Both good answers. Okay, question this week is from Joe. And Joe, you had the question of if you had a 70s rock band or an 80s hip-hop group, what would you call it? So, Joe, what would be the 70s rock band or 80s hip-hop group?
All right, I have an answer for both. So
Okay.
if I had a 70s rock band, I would be Unseen Sabbath.
Oh, nice.
because you know, I mean, God's holy day is never found. There's no God.
Nice, I like it.
And if I had an 80s hip hop group, I would call it Packard Sonic with Attitude.
Oh,
Straight out of Wisconsin, Packard Sonic with Attitude.
that's nice. That's nice. For me, if I had a 70s rock band, I didn't have a chance to really think about this question too much because I'm trying to get the show ready. For a 70s rock band, I'd be the Packard Sunshine Band. Packard Sunshine Band. And if I was an 80s hip hop group, I have no thoughts. Packards, I have no thoughts. No, I really have no idea what I'd call myself.
You could be
Probably
MC Packard and
MC
DJ Sonic.
There you go, DJ Sonic Packard. Yeah. I was thinking of MC Packard.
Punk Master Sonic.
Punk Mastered Sonic. Here we go. So if you have a 70s rock band or an 80s hip hop group, what would you call it?
Or both.
Or both. Go to packardpokesat.wordpress.com, leave a comment there, or here on YouTube if you're watching the show, leave it in the down the comment section below, or contact contact me or Joe, and let us know what you would be. I see. I'm all punked out now. I can't even get myself together here. So, but that's it for us tonight. So I want to thank everybody for coming. We've had a few new faces in the chat room tonight, and I appreciate you for showing up. New feature at the packardpokesat.wordpress.com site is if you would like to make if you'd like to make a donation to the show, there's a donation button there. Just put in a few dollars if you can. If you can't, but you would still like to help the show, go to this will be when the show here posts here on Sunday. There'll be a link that says help the show. Click here. What it'll do is it'll open up a web page, and it'll be an ad, and then you have to sit on it for about 5 seconds. Hit skip, and then it'll take you right back to packardpokesat.wordpress.com. And that will generate a little revenue for the show. So this way, if you can't afford to pay anything to the show, and if you can, that'd be great. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and click that link, and it'll generate a few pennies here and there for me each show, or whenever you decide to click on it, and that would really help out a lot. So, but if you want to reach, in the meantime, if you want to talk to us, and we're on Twitter, if you're not on Twitter, why aren't you? If you want to reach Joe on Twitter, you can reach him as...
I am Joe Unseen, JoeUnseen.
Right. If you want to reach me, I'm on Packard_Sonic. That's PACKARD_SONIC. If you would like to get the show notes, that's packardpokesat.wordpress.com. And of course, like I said, press the donation button, put a few dollars if you can afford it, or just click that link that says help the show out. Click this link. It's that simple. So, so give it a click and help out the show. I want to thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you next week. And this has been Packard Pokesat. We just poked at your news.
And that's a wrap.